Okay, now next is setting the motivation. When you listen to such precious Mahayana text, you should set up your motivation. There is, at least you should think that I am receiving this teaching to benefit all mother sentient beings. All mother sentient beings. The legless earthworm moves around in search of peace. The eyeless ant runs around in search of peace. In short, everybody is running around in search of peace. Even when you change your sites, you do it for happiness, for peace. So everybody is in search of peace and happiness, but it is not easy to get that peace and happiness because of external hurdles, internal negative emotions and so forth. But today, we have found this very precious human life and also met with the Dharma and also met with qualified teachers. So we should consider ourselves lucky and fortunate and develop this wish to cultivate bodhichitta for the benefit of all sentient beings. Now, in order to listen to the teaching, you need to observe certain conduct, physical conduct and mental conduct. Now, in the case of the conducts that must be eliminated, you should remove the 3 faults and 6 stains. 3 faults means when you listen to the teaching, if you don't try to pay attention, don't listen carefully, then this is like a pot turned upside down. You are sitting, physical presence is here, but ear is not paying attention, then it's like pot turned upside down. Nothing will go inside. So that's one fault. Second is, mentally you are not trying to retain the meaning of the teaching by getting distracted and so forth. This is like a leaky pot, a pot which has a hole at the bottom, then whatever you put inside, it will not stay there. So normally we say, if you listen from here and throw it from there, then it will not be of benefit to you. Third is listening to the teaching, but mixed with negative emotions. Mixed with negative emotions means that I'll listen to this teaching, understand the teaching, then later on I will myself become a teacher, and then becoming teacher is not a problem, but the problem arises if you think that I'll become a teacher, become very famous, have a lot of students, then I'll collect money, you know. This is what is happening today. Dharma has also become a business, you see. People use everything for making money. And then they make very strange advertisements, Buddhahood in 1 week. Right? And there's no shortage of gullible or innocent people. So they listen, thinking that something, quick will happen. But remember, there is no push button enlightenment. No push button enlightenment. It is the way with the nature, the trees, the plants, when they grow, it has to have some time to grow. You cannot just, when we were small, we used to do like this. We plant a small flower or something, then we are excited to see the quick result. So then out of curiosity we pull it, and see what is happening down there. So that will destroy the flower. So you have to let it grow in its own time. There is no push button enlightenment, especially when it comes to mental development. For example, if it is an external construction, for example, if I'm constructing a house, I finished constructing the first floor. Then I become very busy. Then I request my friend, saying that I'm now very busy, I have to go to America or whatever. Can you please supervise and make sure that the second story is constructed? It can be done. But in terms of internal mental development, I cannot say, I did my practice for many years, I've reached that stage, now please do the rest for me. It is like, like saying that, I'm very busy, I can't eat, please eat for me. You can't do these things, right? So it will take time, but with relentless effort. Effort means not just working hard. Effort means when you do Dharma practice, many people say, oh, Geshe, I'm not able to do my meditation. I'm not doing this, that, I have difficulty. What should I do? What is the solution? There's only one solution. The one solution is you have to like it. Just like a football player or somebody who is practicing musical instruments. You see, you have to show interest. When you show interest, when you are delighted in what you are doing, time is not the question. You can do it so easily. When your mind is under pain, under problem, even 1 hour is very, very long. When you are enjoying something, even 1 year goes like this. Right? So therefore you need to see the purpose, the reason that's what I already read, that I'm so lucky. Once somebody came to me and said, Geshe, can you please teach me meditation? And then I told that person, I'm not going to teach you these traditional methods of sitting cross-legged and observing all these postures and things like that. But what I want you to do is that this whole morning, you imagine yourself as a cow, not a human being. And then you live this whole morning exactly like the way a cow lives. So where will you eat? Where will you rest? How would people treat you? All this you need to undergo, imagining yourself as a cow. Then you will realize what it means to be a human being. In Buddhism, we talk about human being as the precious human life as precious human life. In Christianity also, we call this human life as the crown of creation, right? Right? So we need to first of all realize this very special capacity that we have, which actually distinguishes us from animals. When I say distinguishing us from animals, I'm not using this as a derogatory term for the animals, but I'm simply saying that we have special capacity that makes us a human being. I was told that even this English word human has the connotation of having some value. And in Sanskrit and Hindi, we use the word purush. Purush means somebody that has a capacity, special capacity. Capacity not for destruction as we are doing these days. Capacity for doing good things. Capacity for developing good qualities. Right? So therefore, we need to appreciate this. And that special capacity is human brain or human intelligence. Right? So we have this very special human brain, human intelligence, and it is our job and task to faithfully, constructively use this brain, given brain and intelligence to proper right development. If we sit down and think carefully, who is making a mess in this world? Who is responsible for pollution of water? Who is responsible for pollution of air? Who is responsible for producing all this endless garbages? Who is responsible? Tigers? Lions? Snakes? We are fearful of these animals, tigers and lions. They kill each other, but in a limited way. They don't engage in all this kind of pollutions and things like it. It's so-called the intelligent human beings. Because we use this human intelligence and brain in a negative way for immediate sensual fulfillment, for fulfilling selfish ends, right? So therefore it's a tremendous loss, huge loss to use such a great power, similar to the nuclear energy, using it in the wrong way. They compare human intelligence like nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is neither good nor bad, but you can use it to produce electricity and many good other things, and also you can use it for prepare nuclear bomb. So similarly, your human intelligence, if you use it in the right direction, you can be Mahatma Gandhi, you can be Mother Teresa, you can be His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you can be Nelson Mandela. So many great beings are there who had brought so much peace, happiness, harmony among people, just one individual. Their brain is not so different from us. Time also, they have 24 hours, we also have 24 hours. Right? So difference comes depending upon where we use it, how we use it. Right? So therefore, we have this amazing human intelligence. And now you should, what we are studying here is to, inviting all of us to use this amazing human intelligence in developing positive inner qualities, including bodhichitta. As I said this morning, there cannot be a project better than this. Believe me, you will very soon you will realize that. Right? And we have this opportunity. The dogs can't talk about bodhicitta or compassion. The cows can't talk about it. It's only human beings. We have this amazing human intelligence. And we hardly use our brain. Even Einstein said he could not use more than 6-7%, something like that. And he said, if I'm able to use it a little bit more, I can make all kinds of miracles on this planet. That's human capacity. That's human capacity. So we really need to, on the one hand, appreciate this human life and not misuse it. Even if you look at the structure of the body, you see, where is there one animal who has this kind of long arm and hug and shake hand, and walk straight, hands free? That hands free is not just for carrying mobile phone. It's for hugging. It's showing friendship. And then look at the teeth. The teeth is basically herbivorous kind of teeth. It's not for preying, killing animals. Teeth are not like tigers and lions. Then look at the nails. It's not like the hawk or eagle and things like that. Again, not for killing other animals, right? It may be just for scratching or something, not more than that, right? And then the eye, especially with the inward gazeness, showing the possibility of going within and developing inner qualities. Just look at the body. Many people have studied human body. So by nature, the human life, including human body, is for compassion, for non-violence. It's not for destruction, not for killing. But so much killing and destruction is happening because we use our human intelligence in the wrong way. Therefore, it is important to make friendship with good people so that you are not taken into the wrong path. If you are under the leadership of a wrong path, you will be compelled to follow it. Right? So therefore, when you take into account all these different situations, there are so many reasons to feel happy, number one. To feel happy, to rejoice. Then with this happy mind, make a promise to do something positive, constructive. Even smiling sometimes, even talking to somebody who has nobody to talk to, can change the life of that person. You don't have to be a TV star, Again, I remember Nelson, Martin Luther King, saying that you can all become great because you can all help. What a big statement, you see. It is not the question that you are recognized as a great man. We can all help. And helping means not just giving money and clothes. There are so many 100,000 ways of helping people. You see, I'll tell you one story, short story. Again, I'm not talking about my greatness, but happening. Once a black lady with her child, maybe 6, 7 years old, something like that. She came when I was then working with His Holiness, came to the office. So usually I go down to talk to these people if it is something related to religion or philosophy, because I was the only monk working in the office and speaking English a little bit, so I went down. So then she started sharing all her problems, difficulties. So I listened carefully. And after that, when I was about to say something, you know what she said? I don't want to hear anything from you. Thank you so much. You are the first person who listened to me carefully. I mean, this is not the first instance. I met so many people like that, you see. There are many people who can't, confide in others, who can't share their genuine feelings. So many people. So many ways of helping. So many. Right? And then this kind of extension of help, showing loving kindness, not necessarily good for other people. It's actually very good for you. When you develop loving kindness, compassion, your inner door opens. Your fear dissipates. Your anxiety disappears. So much of the problem, fear, depression, loneliness that we get is because too much self-cherishing attitude, too much grasping, I, me, mine, not about other people. This repeated talking about I, me, and mine is now scientifically proved to be the source of all kinds of illnesses, including heart attack. Because when you only talk about I, me, and mine, your focus becomes very narrow. Within that small, narrow focus, even if it is a tiny problem, you tend to see it as if it is unsurmountable. But when you expand your perspective, you may have a personal problem, but that is not the only problem in the whole world. There are hundreds and thousands, millions of people who are suffering much more than you. And when you compare, oh, I have a problem, but comparing to these people, my problem is nothing. You see, these are all perspectives. Even there is a story related to Shakespeare. Once he was moving somewhere, and he was feeling a little bit sad because he had no shoes on his feet. But while walking a little distance, he found somebody without leg, and he became happy. Not because the other person has no leg, but he was able to see, I'm lucky comparatively, you see. I'm complaining because I have no shoes on my feet, but this fellow has, forget about shoes, this fellow has no leg. So that's what we are talking about. Your mental perspective, how you see things can make such a tremendous amount of difference. For example, if you're somebody who has lost the left leg, there are two ways to deal with it. One, for the rest of your life, you count that unfortunate thing that I have no left hand. Keep on talking about that and feel sad and complain. How that will help you? Will your missing left hand will come back? No. Instead, there's another way of thinking. Yes, I don't have the left hand, but I have the right hand, which actually does all the lifting, does the writing, and so many things. And moreover, there are so many people who don't have not only the two hands, but also the two legs. There are many people who have lost all the limbs, but I've lost just one, you see. So the way you think makes huge difference. So that is all what we will learn in this book. Okay. So therefore, listen carefully. Don't get distracted. Make sure that your motivation is not mixed with negative emotions. There are many more things to say, but I'm afraid it will take a long time, so I will just stop there. And then the conduct that you should adopt. The conduct that you should adopt is that you should adopt this conduct where you can see where you should see yourself as a sick person. You should see yourself as a sick person. And this Dharma teaching as a medicine. And the practice like recovering from your illness. Now, when we talk about illness or sickness, sickness is not just physical sickness. It is also mental sickness. I'm not saying you are sick, okay? But what I'm saying is, it definitely is a kind of sickness, a negative emotion. We don't realize that, right? Right? So therefore, in order to remove those mental illnesses like anger, jealousy, hatred, and so forth, you need to listen to the Dharma, to the truth, how to remove these illnesses, right? Right? So therefore, develop this kind of motivation that I have this problem and I want to get the medicine of the Dharma teaching, and I will repeatedly practice it. If you don't practice it, it will not help you. Dharma is not for talking, it's also especially for practice. And then, of course, this is Mahayana practice, therefore, listen to this teaching with the wish to practice the 6 or 10 perfections. Okay? So, both from the side of the teacher and the student, the motivation should be good. From the teacher's side also, the teacher should not become arrogant and puffed up because people listening to you don't think that you are very special. So I don't do it in a very, these teachings are just like lectures, so I don't follow all the traditional protocols. But normally, as at least you have seen me prostrating in the morning when I came for the teaching, then normally there is a big throne prepared. And when the teacher, before sitting on the throne, snaps his finger, right? And then also in the debating courtyard, you have seen the monks debating, clapping the hands, right? You've seen that. This is to show impermanence. When I snap my finger, it produces sound, the sound just disappears. Similarly, when the monks debate, they clap the hand, and then the sound is produced by clapping 2 hands, not just 1 hand. No sound. 2 hands, dependent origination. Things can be produced by putting many things together. Then this sound signifies impermanence. There was a sound, it vanished, right? So similarly, our life, everything that we experience is impermanent, right? So so therefore the purpose is the teacher, I'm impermanent. Why should I become arrogant by being able to sit on this throne? So he has to be humble. And the students should also be humble. Both the teacher and students should be humble, because it is humility, it is the receptivity by which you can gain wisdom. If you become puffed up, arrogant, thinking, oh, I did my PhD, oh, I am a CEO of this and that business, venture, things like that. If you get puffed up, then there is no room for getting these wisdoms. The example is, for example, you should yourself see whether the beautiful green grasses and flowers grow more down in the valley or more on the exposed top of a mountain. They grow more down in the valley. So similarly, like the valley, if we humble, listen carefully, you can receive teachings from nature. You can receive teachings even from the mouth of a small child. The whole nature is an open book. You can receive teachings. But if you're arrogant, you can't learn anything. Right? So therefore, humility is very important. And the name of this text is Bodhisattva Avatara, English Bodhisattva Way of Life. Now, when we talk about Bodhisattva Way of Life, it can be the way of life of Bodhisattva of the past, which you can take as an example. It may be following the Bodhisattva Way of Life right now, related to your own personal practice. It may be a commitment that you make to undertake the practice of Bodhisattva way of life in the future. So that is called engaging in the Bodhisattva way of life. Engaging, following the Bodhisattva way of life. Okay? Then this line probably is not there in the English translation, but there is another line which says, I pay homage to the Buddha and all the Bodhisattvas. There is a line which says, I pay homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Now this is in accordance with the decree passed by the Tibetan kings. There are so many teachings of the Buddha. They should all be categorized properly into the 3 Pitakas, 3 sets of discourses. Now, just by this lines of paying homage, you can find out in which Pitaka this belongs. For example, this one says, I pay homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So this belongs to the Sutra Pitaka. If it is a Vinaya Pitaka, monastic discipline, then we'll say, I pay homage to the Buddha. Okay? And if it is a teaching of Abhidharma, then we pay homage to Manjushri, because it talks primarily about wisdom and things like that. So that is not there in the English text. Now next, first verse, respectfully I prostrate myself to the Sugatas who are endowed with the Dharmakaya, as well as to their noble children, and to all who are worthy of veneration. So this is paying refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Paying refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Respectfully, respect, as I spoke about the need of humility. He uses the word respectfully. I prostrate myself, I pay homage. Paying homage is a sign of humility. If you're an arrogant person, you will never bow down. You will never pay homage. Right? So respectfully, I prostrate myself to the Sugata. Sugata is an epithet for the Buddhas. Su is bliss or peace. Gata is gone. So Sugata means one who is gone from peace to peace. Buddha is referred as somebody who has gone from peace to peace because the path he followed is the Bodhisattva path, which is a peaceful path. And then as a result, he achieved that state of enlightenment, which of course is completely peaceful. Again, this is again the beauty of the teaching, you see. If you do any other ordinary activities, the path may be turbulent. The result may be turbulent, you see. Now, when you do such dharma practices, path is peaceful. Right now, for example, at this very session, the weather may be rough outside, not so good, but we are all sitting here comfortably, no problem, you see. You may have some little bit knee pain in some cases, but otherwise it's very wonderful, right? And how many people, hundreds and millions of people are just moving in the marketplace, getting distracted, And we are at least able to, I'm not again saying we are better than them, but what I'm saying is this is a special opportunity. Respectfully, I prostrate myself to the Sugata, which means Buddha, who are endowed with the Dharmakaya. Buddhas are those who have achieved that state of Rupakaya and Dharmakaya, the form body and truth body. Dharmakaya is Dharmakaya here primarily refers to the ordinary mind. When this ordinary mind, the defilements of the ordinary mind is removed, and then that mind without any negative emotions, without any imprints and seeds of negative emotions, that becomes Dharmakaya. And the emptiness of that mind also becomes Dharmakaya. So naturally, nature truth body and wisdom truth body, we call it Dharmakaya, 2 types. So that is to say that when we say Sugata or Buddha, he is somebody who has removed all his negative emotions. That's the meaning, Dharmakaya. As well as, so this Dharmakaya also refers to the Dharma. Sugata is Buddha, Dharmaka is Dharma, and as well as their noble children. Noble children means not the physical children, but the bodhisattvas. The bodhisattvas became bodhisattvas due to the teaching of the Buddha. They are born from the teaching of the Buddha, so they are called spiritual children, noble children. So this refers to Sangha. I take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So the first thing that when somebody wants to become a Buddhist, then the first thing they do is take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay? Now the question arises, why should you take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? Here we need to understand, first of all, taking refuge, seeking the protection of someone is in the human nature. This is not something unique and peculiar to Buddhism. For example, when it rains, you take refuge in umbrella. At 12 o'clock, we took refuge in the lunch because we were hungry. Long ago, men took refuge in the cave, right? So whenever you have a problem, you take refuge in something else. So here also, when we say, I take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we are basically saying, I have a problem. I have a problem. I want to take, refuge in you. Please protect me. So now here the question is, who are these three guys, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? How can they protect you? The wonderful example that is given in Maitreya's Uttara Tantra and many other texts is like this, for example. When you have physically become sick, not only sick, but very sick, then you take refuge in three things. You need to go to a physician, doctor, right? The doctor may be, highly trained, but if he has no medicine, it's of not much use. So you need to get the medicine also. Now, because you are very sick, it's not enough that you have the teacher and also the medicine, but what you also need is somebody to help you. Sangha. Sangha means somebody who is in touch with you. It may be the nurse, it may be the compounder, it may be your brother, it may be your sister. Somebody has to feed you, give you medicine at the right time, give you food at the right time, wash your clothes, whatever. We need three things when we are physically get very sick. So similarly, when we mentally become sick with the negative emotions, we need three. Buddha, who is like the physician, who can guide you. And then Dharma is his actual teaching. And then Sangha are the role models. People like now, you are all a kind of Sangha towards each other. If Tushita makes an announcement for this teaching, then only one person turns out, then they will say, Geshe, sorry, there is only one person. You see? The teaching may be cancelled. Now, because so many like-minded people came up, so therefore we are able to have this session, have these teachings. So therefore, Sangha is very important. So these three, just like you need to have three when you physically get sick. Similarly, you need to have these three. Okay. So therefore, now at this juncture, many people ask, I want to become a Buddhist. What is the process? How should I do? Then it's becoming Buddhist is not like baptizing. You sprinkle some water and you become Buddhist. Not like that. The most important thing is, before you decide to become Buddhist, you should read the teachings, understand the teaching, and see whether it's suitable to you or not, relevant to you or not, right? Especially if you are following some other religious tradition. His Holiness the Dalai Lama always suggests that if you're already following some other tradition, don't change your religion in haste. Okay, changing religion is not easy. But if you want to change at your own decision, nobody can stop you. It's your choice. But change your religion only when you properly, clearly know what you're doing. So therefore, if you want to become Buddhist, read the text. Who is Buddha? Who is Dharma? Who is Sangha? What is the path? What is bodhichitta? What is emptiness? You know all this. Then when you think that this is really very, very suitable to me, then more or less you become Buddhist already. Because you have decided now this is the religion for me. Then in order to remember that occasion of your decision, you can formally do it with a teacher, and he will help you, strengthen that decision further. Okay, so that is the process. But as I said, it is not a must you become a Buddhist, but it is a must that you become a good human being. This is the most important thing. Sometimes the awkward situation is, in any religious tradition, we are many who follow different religious traditions. So, and then we claim ourselves as a religious practitioner. But as a human being, you are not a good human being. That is a disgrace. The first step is to be a good human being. If you are a good human being, it means you have the core values of all the teachings. And if you don't live it, don't practice it, even if you change your robe, shape your hair like me, it will have not much impact or not much difference. Okay? So there's a little bit about the three refuges. Now the next line is, next verse is, here I shall explain how to engage in the vows of the Buddha's children, the meaning of which I have condensed in accordance with the scriptures. Now he says here I shall explain how to engage in the vows of the Buddha's children, means Bodhisattvas, vows of the Bodhisattvas, the meaning of which I have condensed in accordance with the scriptures. So that means, now these two lines, is 2 or 3, 4, whatever, in these lines he is making a promise that he is going to compose this text. As we say, promise breakers are, there is an English saying, promise breakers are, you don't know their saying? Anyway, people who break promise treat it as worse than a dog. I mean, dog necessarily bad, but this is how people say. So to make a promise and to break it is treated as something not nice. And that person who breaks promise is basically not a reliable person. Especially in the case of these great masters, once they will not make any promise easily. But if they make a promise, they will stick to it. So in our case also, you will get many offers. Can you do this? Can you do that? There may be some temptation because money is forthcoming. There also, I'm not talking about Dharma practice right now. In those situations also, don't make promises, too many promises. See whether you can do it or not just go after the temptation of money. And when you are sure this is worth doing, worth spending time, then you decide, I'll do it. So don't make too many promises, but those on which you have made promises, you should be able to fulfill it. That will actually make your life also simpler and easier. That's based on my personal experience also. So therefore he is saying, I shall explain. So he's making a promise. I shall explain what he will explain. I will explain how to engage in the vows of the Buddha's children. That means the vows of the Bodhisattvas. What are the vows of the Bodhisattvas? The vows of Bodhisattvas are basically 3. He is talking about 3 types of morality, basically. The first vow is restraining the negative deeds. As I explained this morning, do not do anything that's negative. Restraining the negative deeds. Second is do everything that is positive. That is called collecting the virtuous practices. It's good you don't do anything bad, but that's not enough. Like the rocks and stones also don't do anything bad. But that's not enough. They don't do anything good also, right? So therefore, it's not enough not to do anything bad, but also do all the good things. And the purpose of not doing bad things and doing good things is to be able to help others. So the third morality is called morality of helping sentient beings. So in Buddhism, morality is not observing a discipline which is imposed upon you. Morality is something that you observe for your own benefit. Removing negative emotion is for your own benefit. Cultivating positive emotions is for your own benefit. Helping other sentient beings is for your own benefit and also, of course, benefit of other sentient beings. So he's talking about these three vows, which actually talks about all the six perfections in a nutshell. Okay. Here I shall explain how to engage in the vows of the Bodhisattva's children, the meaning of which I've condensed in accordance with the scriptures. Now he is saying this, the meaning of which I've condensed. People might ask you, I'll ask Shantideva by saying, since there are so many texts already available, why you are composing these texts? This is just a repetition. People might think like this. So he's saying, no, this is not a repetition. I know there are so many volumes. Like just the teachings of the Buddha, there are 108 big volumes. If you come one of these days, if you come to my institute in the library, you can see those volumes, 108 huge volumes, just the teaching of the Buddha. So he's saying that yes, I know there are so many teachings, but for ordinary people like us, who have not much time, not much intelligence, it's not possible for them to read all of them. So therefore, what I've done is I took the essence and condensed it so that, especially in today's world, when everybody says I'm very busy, interestingly, they are busy for many things, not for Dharma. Anyway, right? So the meaning of which I've condensed in accordance with the scriptures. I've condensed, but not just based on what comes in my thought, but in accordance with the scriptures. Okay. But at the same time, then next, observing humility. There is nothing here that has not been explained before, and I have no skill in the art of rhetoric. Therefore, lacking any intention to benefit others, I read this in order to acquaint it to my mind. So this is, he's not saying that it's not like today, somebody writes a dissertation and then, of course, that research work and dissertation has to be something different. So then people say, oh, nobody has written a book like this before. It's only me, intelligent me, who has wrote this book. This is what we say today, you see. But he's not saying that. He's saying there's nothing here that has not been explained before. I mean, during the past so many years of human life, so many intelligent people have, spoken and written about so many things. So it's almost impossible to say something totally, unexplained or not said before. So there is nothing here that has not been explained before. And I have no skill art of rhetoric. So what he's saying is, if you are somebody, indirectly, he's also giving us a teaching. When you read my book, if you're only looking for new information, if you're only looking for new information and not with the intention to practice, then nothing here that has not been explained before. Because there are people who are always looking for new things, never practicing anything. So he's saying, if you are that kind of person, this is not for you. And I have no skill in the art of rhetoric means there are some people who are very fond of the metaphors, beautiful, poetic compositions. And if you're somebody who's looking for a beautiful poem, I'm not especially good in that. And actually it is said he's a very good poet, Shantideva. If you particularly read the Sanskrit, you can know. Tibetan we read and it's so beautiful. It's translation, but so beautiful. But again, humility, he's saying, one, to observe humility. Second, to tell people if you are not here to practice, but simply looking for beautiful words, this is not for you. Therefore, lacking any intention, therefore it is from this point of view, and if you come with this motivation, then I have no intention to benefit others. Then, if you have no wish to benefit others, then why you are writing this? Why you are writing this? Then he says, I read this in order to acquaint it to my mind. It's for myself. Good enough, you see. You're a practitioner, you want to improve your mind, You want to get habituated, so it's not worthless. And then in the next he says, for due to acquaintance with what is wholesome, the force of my faith may for a short while increase because of these words. If, however, these words are seen by others, equal in fortune to myself, it may be meaningful for them. So he's saying that what I've written will not be completely wasteful, because in my case, as I said, due to acquaintance with the teaching, what is virtuous, what is wholesome, then the force of my faith will be strengthened, at least for a short while. And because of these words, if, however, these words are seen by others, once I've written this one, then this will definitely read by others. Then at least there will be people who are of similar intelligence, equal to me. And just as this has benefited me, it will benefit those people also. Okay. However, these words are seen by others, equal in fortune to myself, it may be meaningful for them. It may be meaningful for them. Huh? So in this way, he is saying that, number one, in your practice, you should never get discouraged. Never remain lazy. Make your mind acquainted with these things. Write books. Write books. Writing a book is very important in the sense because once you write a book, it will be there forever. If you only talk, it will vanish quickly like that. So it is special benefit. Then next he goes to speak about the nature of this text. So the first 3 chapters of this text is for cultivating bodhichitta, which we have not cultivated. Now, in order to cultivate that bodhichitta, you need physical support and mental support. Now, in terms of physical support, leisure and endowment are very hard to find. And since they accomplish what is meaningful for humanity, if I do not take advantage of them now, how will such a perfect opportunity come about again? So that means, as I already mentioned, that this human life is very precious. This physical body that you have, with wonderful brain especially, is an amazing basis for cultivating such a mind. If you are born, as I said, as a dog, as a cow, the brain itself, the body itself will not become a basis for developing such a bodhicitta. So leisure and endowment, meaning basically, I'm not going to explain in detail. Leisure means on the one hand, we have opportunity. So don't say you have no opportunity. Don't say you have no time. He's saying you have time. You have time. Now it is up to you how you use time. I remember very clearly once His Holiness the Dalai Lama was giving a teaching to a group of people from France in the main temple. I was at that time not his translator, I was just attending the teaching. So during the teaching, during the question answer session, one French lady got up and said, "Your Holiness, your teaching is so wonderful. But in the West, we are so busy. We have no time to practice. So what should we do?" His Holiness said, "It is up to you whether you want to do practice or not." First I thought, His Holiness, isn't this a little bit blunt? But he was not blunt. He was telling the truth. He said, it's up to you whether you want to do practice or not. If you really want to do practice, you have to find time. When you say you have no time, your priority lies in many other things than religious practice. This is one thing we have to remember, you see. We normally think, yeah, these spiritual practices are very important, but I will do it only during the holiday. I'll do it when there is nothing else left to do. People also become monk when they become very old. They get married have 5, 6 children, and then they are so old, not good in any ordinary worldly practices, and then this I'll become monk. His Holiness laughs at it by saying, when you can't do the worldly things, how can you do it's dharma practice? It should be just the opposite. Dharma practice should be done when you are young, when you're energetic, when your channels and nerves and wind energy, everything is supple. Then you should do practice. How can you do this practice when you're so old, your eye can't see anything, or hardly see anything, your brain, I'm a little bit negative now, right? Your brain is a little bit affected from dementia, I mean, it happens to everybody, you see. You become forgetful, then it's better than nothing. I mean, we are not discouraging anybody, but I mean, what I'm saying, or what His Holiness saying is, do these practices when you are young, when you are energetic. Don't postpone your practice. Postponing practice itself is called laziness in Buddhism. There are many forms of laziness. One laziness is called postponement. I'll do it next year. I'll do it after retirement. This is laziness. Okay. So what should we do now? Just as you make budget with your income, similarly you can make budget with the spiritual practice also. You can make a timetable that every morning at least 10 minutes in the morning. We have to do this. 10 minutes in the morning. After you get up, develop this appreciation. I'm lucky. I'm awake again. Don't take it for granted. You go to bed and wake up every morning. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. But I'm alive and kicking again. Wonderful. So now I will make this human life meaningful, at least for today. When I go to work, whatever is your work and profession, I'll make sure that I'll make my co-workers happy and people I meet happy, and I'll not get angry and things like that. Make that promise. Then when you actually go to work, meet with different people, it is not sure whether you will be able to live up to that promise, right? Because you have very strong negative emotions within yourself. You might flare out, fight with somebody. It's okay. It's okay. Don't get discouraged. You can't become Buddha in one day. Okay? So what you do is, when you come home, come back, then see how much you were able to live up to your promise. If you have lived up to your promise, develop appreciation, rejoice it. And then you should again make promise, determination that you will do the same thing again the next day, and so forth. If somehow you fought with somebody, did something negative, did something wrong, then you should say, don't say that I'm a bad person, I'm hopeless. No, don't discourage yourself. I'm not Buddha, I make mistake, but at least I now know the mistake that I made. So I will rectify it tomorrow. So like this, repeatedly when you do it, then gradually you will be able to do your practice. It is possible. Don't think it is impossible. I'll give you one example. For example, I don't do a very difficult job. In the library, I'm supposed to be the director. So I have around 60 people working under me. They're all very nice people, much, much better than me. They're very nice people, so I have no problem. But sometimes some other people who I never met before, whatever be the reason, they just come into my office very angry. How you would deal with that? You see? The way to deal with it is one, which I'm practicing, and successful. One, if you find that person very angry, then you should politely, with a smile, not sarcastic smile, that will anger that person even more. But genuine gentle smile, say, I'm sorry, I'm right now very busy. Can you please come after half an hour or 1 hour? Believe me, that person will never come back. Because he will not remain angry for 1 hour continuously waiting for me. When his anger cools down, he realizes the mistake he made. You see? Or sometimes what I do is, oh, Tashdele, how are you? You know, he is very angry, but you smile. How are you? Please sit down. How can I help you? Things like that. Already half the problem is solved. You see? The problem arises because that person is also angry. You're also angry, you know. Remember that story, encounter happened with the Buddha. Once Buddha was with his, followers giving the teaching, whatever. Then somebody, stranger, came, went straight to the Buddha and spat on his face, very angry. Then his disciples, pushed him away. Then after that, the disciple said, how can you remain like this when this person without any reason spat on your face? The Buddha said, I'm not angry with him. I'm angry with you actually. Angry means I'm not happy with you. Because you have been staying with me, supposed to be practicing, and you are not able to practice in the face of that situation. And with this person, how can you say that there's no reason for him to be angry? Somebody might have told very bad things about me. There may be a familial problem. So many other things are there. So therefore, I maintain my, patience. You see? Right? So there is a solution. There is a solution. You only need to practice it. Okay? So what I was saying. So anyway, so what we are saying is leisure means you have that's what I'm saying. We have time. We have to find time. You have to see this as very, very important. Giving food to your mind is the most important thing. So you have time. Not only you have time, you have endowment, which means you have, I'm not going to count all these facilities. Endowment, you not only have opportunity and time, you also have the needed facilities to do dharma practice. Facility means your senses are intact, you have this wonderful human brain, human intelligence, and things like that. So leisure and endowment are very hard to find, very difficult to find, but you found it today. You have it. You are a human being. Appreciate that. And since they accomplish what is meaning for humanity, if I do not take advantage of them now not only I found this precious human life with the leisure and endowment, but when having found such a precious human life with such opportunity and facility, if I don't use it to make meaningful, and if I don't take advantage of this great opportunity, how will such a perfect opportunity come about again? Even in this life, how many times you will get this opportunity? Your family will say, go here, come there. Your business will say, come here, go there, You have problem with your visa, whatever, there's so many hurdles are there. Even in this life. Then after you die, nobody knows where you will be born. According to Buddhism, there is no guarantee that the evolution is all the way up. You can go down also, depending upon your karma, your thinking, you see. Right? Therefore, in the Tibetan society, we have a saying that if you want to know what was your past life, then look at your body, your present body. When you look at your present body, you are a human being with a human body. So that means your past life did a very good job. Now, if you want to know where you will be born, what will be your future life, judge the state of your mind. When you judge the state of mind, then the only thing that comes in your mind is all the destructive, negative things. It is for sure you will go down. Right? So therefore, there's no guarantee that you will be born again as a human being. If you're born again as a cow or a dog or butterfly, whatever, then forget about doing the practice, at least at that time. Right? So very difficult. So it's very difficult. So don't waste this precious human life. That is what he's saying. Don't waste this precious human life. So this So this shows that you have the physical support. Now what about the mental support? Just as a flash of lightning on a dark, cloudy nights for an instant brightly illuminates all, likewise in the world through the might of the Buddha, a wholesome thought rarely and briefly appears. So that means doing Dharma, the opportunity to do Dharma practice is very rare. Just as a flash of lightning on a dark, cloudy night, on a dark, cloudy night, when there is a flash of lightning, then the illumination is there just for an instant, just for a moment, not more than a moment. Likewise, in this world, through the might of the Buddha, a wholesome thought rarely and briefly appears. So like that, when it comes to developing negative emotions and negative thought, it comes spontaneously, effortlessly. But when it comes to developing positive thoughts, it's like that lightning in the dark night, very rare. So at least now, right now, you have this motivation and wish to cultivate these positive qualities. So that itself is a wonderful mental support basis. Not only we all have that. In Buddhism, we say all sentient beings have the Buddha nature. Now, in addition to that presence of Buddha nature, you are born as a human being, and among human beings, among these 8 billion human beings, very few people show genuine interest in spiritual practices or in Buddhism, things like that. So therefore, you have the mental support. So rejoice. Physical support is there, mental support is there. But there's another but, okay? The but is, the next verse is talking about the special benefit of bodhicitta. Special, very special benefit of bodhicitta. Hence, virtue is perpetually feeble. The great strength of immorality being extremely intense, and except for a fully awakened mind, by what other virtue will it be overcome? So that means, now if you look carefully, you have found this precious human life, but if you check, how strong is your positive practices? So it's saying when it comes to do your, when it comes to your, positive practices, they are very feeble. Even when you think about doing a positive practice, motivation may not be so good. The actual practice may not be so good. The conclusion and rejoicing is not so good. So it's feeble. When it comes to developing a negative emotion, the preparation is good. The actual practice is good. The conclusion is good. Like, for example, look at the military uniforms. So smart. I don't know whether I can say negative or not, but when it comes to something destructive, people are very prepared, very unified. That's one reason, few mischievous people, they achieve a lot of mileage in the society because the majority are good, but they are silent spectators and they are not very well organized. But those people like terrorists, they are very well organized. They get all the latest weapons, equipments, how to hijack a aeroplane, whatever. These are not easy, but they do all these things because they are prepared. So it's in the human nature, when it comes to doing something bad, you are very well prepared. Actual practice is good, then conclusion is good. When it comes to doing something good, not so well prepared. Hence, virtue is perpetually feeble. Perpetually means always. The virtuous practices are not very strong. On the other hand, the great strength of immorality, anything that is destructive, negative, immoral, they are very intense, very strong. So now how can we deal with such intense negative emotions? The only powerful thing that will be a counterforce against such extreme intense negative emotions is the fully awakened mind. That means bodhicitta. By what other virtue will it be overcome? Now, this does not mean to say that bodhicitta is the direct counterforce against negative emotions. It's not the direct counterforce. but it will lessen, very effectively lessen the manifestation of negative emotions. For example, bodhichitta is rooted in loving kindness and compassion. Loving kindness, compassion. If we have a society where there is very strong practice of loving kindness and compassion, then there will be no room for miscreants to crop their ugly head. Right? Loving kindness, compassion. And bodhicitta is based on loving kindness and compassion. Right? Right? When the Buddha, if you look at the history of the Buddha himself, he conquered the negative forces through loving kindness. The evil forces are tamed through loving kindness. Sentient beings are nurtured through loving kindness. Right? So loving kindness, as we say, love is a quality which the blind can see and the deaf can hear. If it is genuine love, it can completely transform others. So similarly, and then bodhicitta, of course, is even stronger positive emotion, where it talks about benefiting all sentient beings. No enemy there. All sentient beings. The one who harms you, the one who helps you, whoever they are, you treat all of them as same. During the question answer, reserve it. Okay? Hence, okay. Now, when we say virtue is perpetually feeble, that means we hardly remember doing virtuous practices. We have so many other things to do than developing compassion and love. So we hardly think. You may be able to remember and talk about these things during such a gathering, but otherwise in your daily life, you may be talking, discussing about politics, about so many other things, not talking about these things. Right? So it's feeble. It's feeble. So it's like that lightning in the dark, sky. And in terms of the negative immoral or negative emotions, this is like that dark cloud, powerful dark cloud, which covers the lightning. Very difficult to stop. So it's only precious bodhicitta which can overpower, which can suppress these negative emotions. And it is because of this. Now look at this. I like this word so much. All the Buddhas who have contemplated for many eons have seen it to be beneficial, for by it the limitless masses of beings will quickly attain the supreme state of bliss. So that means not one Buddha, but countless Buddhas contemplated and thought, what is that one mental quality which is most effective and most useful? They thought not only for one day or a few years, but all these countless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas thought for countless eons, what is that one quality which is beneficial for everybody? Then they all kind of unanimously said, bodhicitta. This is very powerful. And by now you know the meaning. Bodhicitta is wonderful. The mind that wishes to achieve enlightenment. You have to say it. Every one of you have to say it. If you think one day I will say it, it will never come to your mouth. You have to say it right now, There's a Tibetan saying which says, the good words should be spelled out. Good meanings should be thought and contemplated. Good deeds should be done physically, So don't just think one day I will say it. It will not come to your mind. When I was a student, I used to say, if you want to improve talking, you have to talk. No amount of writing will help you. If you want to improve your writing, you need to write. No amount of speaking will help you. You see? So you have to speak. Get habituated with it. All the Buddhas who have contemplated for many eons have seen it to be beneficial. This translation says, have seen it to be beneficial. But the Buddhist text, it says, have seen only this as the most beneficial thing. For by it, limitless masses of beings will quickly attain the supreme state of bliss. So the supreme state of bliss means the state of Buddhahood. Buddhahood means the highest happiness. We all want happiness, right? Do we all want happiness? How many days? That's the normal response I always get. You know, I start all my teaching by saying, do you all want happiness? Everybody says yes. For how many days? Then they laugh and smile. So by laughing and smile, they're basically saying, what are you saying? We want happiness as long as possible, right? This is our inborn nature. And I said, this is good news. This is good news. Because this is telling you that if you make the effort, you can do it. If you make the effort, you can do it. You can achieve the highest happiness. The Buddhahood is nothing but a name for highest happiness. And nobody can say, I don't want the highest happiness. Highest happiness is possible if you remove all the negative emotions. Number one, remove all the negative emotions. That's not enough. After having removed all the negative emotions, remove all the seeds of the negative emotions. That's not enough. After having removed all the seeds, remove all the imprints of the negative emotions. Just like, for example, if you chop a piece of onion, okay, then even after you have removed the onion, still there is a lingering smell, right? So that imprint means the habit, die-hard habit is very difficult to stop. So you have to change that habit also, okay? So thereby you achieve that state of Buddhahood. So you said you want happiness. You also said you want long-lasting happiness. You said it, okay? At the end of the workshop, I'm going to get your signature. Okay. So now this is a good thing. When you say you want a long-lasting happiness, then you need to think, how are you going to get that long-lasting happiness? From where do you think you will get that long-lasting happiness? From where? From Mercedes car? Huh? From mind. What do you mean by mind? Yeah, so how would you develop that? Make it more comprehensible. This is too technical. Yeah. Basically, it means when we say, people always say, I want long-lasting. Then from where are you going to get long-lasting happiness? People always point like inside. So I asked them, what do you mean by inside? That basically means changing your mental perspective, changing your mental outlook. Changing your mental outlook means you develop a mental outlook which is in harmony with the law of nature. Emptiness is nothing but law of nature. Emptiness is not invented by Buddha. Impermanence is not invented by Buddha. It was there. He discovered it like a great scientist. People were not looking at those things, Especially now when we talk about impermanence, there is a gross impermanence, subtle impermanence, So subtle impermanence, we don't even pay attention. Gross impermanence, we have some idea with the death of person and things like that. So you need to go and understand this many facets of law of nature. Okay? So there's the meaning. Change your perspective. Okay. So therefore, bodhicitta being so precious, those who wish to destroy the many sorrows of their conditioned existence. It means if you are somebody who wants to destroy many of the sorrows within the samsara, practice bodhicitta. Those who wish all beings to experience a multitude of joys, if you want to experience that multitude of joys, practice bodhicitta. And those who wish to experience such happiness, practice bodhicitta. Therefore, you should never forsake the awakening mind, the bodhicitta. There is a very good practitioner who passed away some years back. He had written a book on bodhicitta. In that book, he says, if you are getting discouraged, meditate on bodhicitta. If you are becoming arrogant, meditate on bodhicitta. If you are living, meditate on bodhicitta. If you are dying, meditate on bodhicitta. If you are getting a lot of money, meditate on bodhicitta. If you are shortage of money, bodhicitta. In all situations. I mean, it's really like an elixir, which transforms ordinary, irons into gold. Now, before I forget, it's not important that we are able to cover a lot of things, but the important things must be told. Now, this morning I told you two very important things, which is basically covers most of the subject, bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, emptiness. Okay, so these two topics. Now, His Holiness the Dalai Lama these days, because of his age and busy schedule, he doesn't have much time to explain in detail everything as he used to do when he was young. When he was young, even when I was his translator, he used to teach at one go 7 hours, 8 hours. Then for 10 days, 15 days, 20 days like that. Now, of course, he can't do that. But if you watch his teachings these days, he settles down on these 2 points, bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, emptiness. This is the lifeline, you see, the lifeline. And he shares this based on not only reading the book, as I'm doing, but based on his personal experience, saying that I practiced this for so many years. I got this benefit. Please, this is my gift to you. Practice this. This is what he's saying. What a comforting thing. Somebody who's telling this with his own personal experience. So we should take this as a precious gift as is taught here and practice it. Because we may not be able to read everything, understand everything, but this is the heart. This is the heart. Now, why this is the heart? Why this is that? That's what I'm going to tell. The good thing is at least these 2 things, bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, emptiness. Why these 2 things are very important? These 2 things are important because we need to fight 2 enemies. 2 very, obnoxious. Obnoxious is the right word? Okay, obnoxious. Because some of this English word, I'm not so sure it's just coming out. My past life may be in English. Anyway, so these dreadful enemies, we have to fight 2 dreadful enemies which made our life miserable. One is self-cherishing attitude. Self-cherishing attitude. Now, don't misunderstand this. When we talk about discouraging, removing self-cherishing attitude, we are not saying don't take care of yourself. Now here, self-cherishing attitude means a way of thinking, a negative way of thinking, where you think only about yourself and completely ignore the well-being of others, needs of others. Kind of self-obsession. That's self-cherishing attitude. As I already mentioned earlier, that repeated reference to I, me, and mine is very bad for your health. It may induce physical illnesses like heart attack. I said this already. This is now not only in the beginning of Chandakirti's entering the middle way, this is supported by scientific findings. Okay, so that self-cherishing attitude in the sense of thinking just about oneself and completely forgetting others is very, very devastating, very, 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 very negative. This is cause of your anxiety, depression, loneliness, physical sickness, mental illness, and so forth. I mean, it is counterproductive. Okay, you are developing this self-cherishing attitude, thinking that I'm doing my best, right? But the end result is the other way around. It's counterproductive. It is negative because your focus becomes very narrow, restricting, constricting, that leads to all kind of illnesses, physical and mental. So therefore, now we need to replace this self-cherishing attitude by, what? Yeah, the right term is bodhichitta. I'm talking about two powerful enemies and the two powerful counterforces. So the powerful counterforce to self-cherishing attitude, which I've explained, is bodhichitta, where you think about well-being of all sentient beings. Now, even that negative self-cherishing attitude comes from another more powerful president or prime minister or army general, something like that, is ignorance. Ignorance is not just lack of knowledge, but misconception of reality. Reality is that everything is interconnected, interdependent, but that ignorance, misconception of reality, sees things as having independent existence. And from there, from that kind of ignorance comes attachment, anger, jealousy, as I already explained this morning. When you get obsessed with attachment, when you see your enemy at 100% negative, how you develop hatred and so forth, I've explained all this. So therefore, now to make it more simple, we want happiness. We want long-lasting happiness. We are not getting it. We don't have it right now. Why? Because the headquarters of our mind is right now captured by the enemy of self-cherishing attitude and ignorance. These two are like the bosses, the president and prime minister of all the negative emotions. Now, because you suffered so much, now you are voicing your concern and saying, let us have an election. Let us have an election. You are now trying to gather the forces of positive emotions. You want to hold this election. And through this election, you want to dislodge, dethrone self-cherishing attitude and ignorance, and enthrone bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding. So look at this one now. How happy you will be, how confident you will be if your leaders are not ignorance and self-cherishing attitude, but rather your leaders are bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding. Then the happiness, the long-term happiness that you want to get will be there. So that's what we are trying. There's the whole purpose. There's the whole purpose. Okay? The moment in awakening, yeah. And then when you generally develop this bodhicitta, even your name will change. The moment an awakening mind arises, in those fettered and weak in the jail of cyclic existence, they will be named as child of the Sugata and will be revered by both humans and gods of world. So I'll make it simple. What he's saying is, the moment an awakening mind arises, that means the moment you develop bodhicitta, right now you may be fettered, that means fettered and weak in the jail of cyclic. That means right now you are in the samsara. You are imprisoned, you may be fettered, you may be weak in terms of your spiritual practice, you are imprisoned in the samsara. But even though you're in the samsara, the moment you develop this bodhicitta, you will get a new name, Bodhisattva. Like His Holiness is Bodhisattva, we say. Then there are others who do very good, then say, oh, he's like a Bodhisattva. Maybe not Bodhisattva, but like a Bodhisattva. You get that beautiful name, you see. Even if you show a little bit of kindness, you see, it's so important, so important. And then not only the name, but your whole being changes. Your whole being changes. Your whole attitude changes. Right? Then you will reach a state where nothing can affect you much. If there is a good news, you will not get too excited because you know the reality. Tomorrow there may be bad news. If there is a bad news today, you won't get dejected. You will feel a little bit sad, but you don't lose your hope because good news is coming. This is the way it is. It is samsara, you see. And you will continue with your practice on the path. And nobody can disturb you. Demons can't disturb you. Human beings will also not be able to disturb you much if your inner stability is there. Right? Some people have asked me, I've been harmed by certain evil spirits and things like that. And I've always told them, if you think you are harmed by an evil spirit or ghost, which I personally never saw any ghost or evil spirit, I'm not saying they are not there, they may be there. But if you think you are harmed by an evil spirit ghost, it means your weakness. Your spiritual practice is weak. So don't think that there is a host of evil spirits, ghosts who are unemployed and looking for somebody to, it's not like that. All their job is to harm other people. No, it's not like that. When you are weak, then viruses harms you. When you are weak, people also bully you. So you need to be strong. Physically strong means not resorting to arms and fighting. Strong means physically strong, mentally strong. Right? Right? So therefore, it is by developing this kind of bodhichitta that we get all these strengths. The moment an awakening mind arises, even in the case of those who are fettered and weak in the jail of cyclic existence, they will be named as bodhisattva and will be revered by both humans and gods. Basically, you have this wonderful mind, therefore you will be respected. Even when you are in the samsara, wherever you are, you will be respected. They will say, such a kind woman, such a kind gentleman, you see. They'll remember you, they'll miss you, right? That's important. Okay. And then he gives an example. The benefit of bodhicitta. He explains benefit of bodhicitta by an example. By an example. The example is, it is like the supreme gold making elixir, because it transforms the unclean body we have taken. Just as the elixir transforms ordinary metals into gold, similarly, when you generate this bodhicitta, this even unclean body that we have right now becomes a priceless jewel of Buddha form. Buddha form means you will achieve Buddhahood. There's no other way but to cultivate bodhicitta, and through cultivation of bodhicitta, you gradually become Buddha, completely enlightened. Therefore, family sees the awakening mind. Therefore, you must hold and cultivate this bodhicitta. This is one example. Then he gives another example. Since the limitless mind of the soul guide means Buddha, since the limitless mind of the soul guide of the world has upon thorough investigation seen its preciousness, all beings wishing to be free from worldly abodes should firmly take hold of the precious awakening mind. Okay, so basically he's saying that, for example, if you go to the ocean to collect precious jewels, then you need to rely upon a proper guide, the salesman or whatever. So like that, since the limitless mind of the soul guide means Buddha of the world has upon thorough investigation, they are not teaching about bodhicitta after a rough investigation. They are teaching this after thorough investigation, seen its preciousness, just like people who go to the ocean to collect jewels and gems, when they see the good qualities, they will collect it. So all beings wishing to be free from worldly abodes, worldly abode means samsara, should firmly take hold of this precious awakening mind. All other virtues are like plantain trees, for after bearing fruit, they simply perish. Yet the perennial tree of awakening mind unceasingly bears fruit and thereby flourishes without end. So other virtuous practices may be like banana tree. Plantain tree means banana tree. If you want to see some essence, you know, core, essence in the banana tree or in the onion, you peel it. It's peel after peel, you completely peel it, you will not find anything in it called essence. Okay? Because this virtuous practices may be you're doing this without a proper aim to achieve enlightenment. Okay, so they bear fruit once and then perish. But the bodhichitta is like a perennial tree, because the very motivation that you have cultivated when developing bodhichitta is to achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay, so therefore it flourishes continuously. So this is actually a very, very clever way of cultivating, strengthening virtuous practices. Any practices influenced by bodhicitta will flourish forever. Okay. Like entrusting myself to brave men when greatly afraid, by entrusting myself to this awakening mind, I shall be severely liberated. Even if I have committed extremely unbearable wrongs, why then do the conscientious not devote themselves to this? So it's like, as I explained earlier, if you are going somewhere, a risky place, then you need the help of somebody who are brave, who have the needed weapons and equipments. Like entrusting myself to a brave man when greatly afraid, when you are very, very scared of going somewhere, you need somebody to come with you, strong people, not weak people, courageous people. So similarly, if you trust yourself to the bodhicitta, then you will be quickly liberated. If I've committed extremely unbearable wrongs, why then, like, for example, if you did something, if you committed some criminal activity, right? Then in order to protect yourself from the result of their punishment, you need to make friendship with the minister. This is what the politicians do all the time, something like that. So similarly, we have all committed very bad negative emotions. So, the best way to purify it is to entrust yourself to the practice of bodhicitta. It's a very powerful way of purifying everything, right? Because the so-called negative emotions, destructive activities that we do are in relation to other human beings, other sentient beings. So now you change your stance and develop a mind which says, may I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. You're curing, you're healing all those wrong thinking and wrongdoings that you've done in relation to the sentient beings. Just like when we fall on the ground, the only way to get away is seek the support of the ground. Right? So similarly, when we make mistakes with sentient beings, the only way to rectify it is to help them, to change the course of your action. So the best way is to develop bodhicitta. Another example, just like the fire at the end of an age or aeon, it instantly consumes all great wrongdoing. Its unfathomable advantage were taught to the disciple Sudana by the wise Lord Maitreya. So there means at the end of an age, when the fire of the aeon arises, it destroys everything. In the Buddhist teaching, there is a saying that at one point there will be destruction through the fire, destruction through the water, aeon, fire of aeon, water of aeon, things like that. When this fire come, then everything will be destroyed. So something like that, something like that. So this is an example, something like that. Okay. So when you cultivate bodhicitta, there will be unbelievable benefits, advantages, as is taught. This is a long sutra, and there's no need to translate this. As is taught to the disciple Sudana by the wise Lord Maitreya. In brief, the awakening mind should be understood to be of two types: the mind that aspires to awaken and the mind that ventures to do so. So that means now he's talking about two types of bodhicitta. We know bodhicittas. Now there are two types of bodhicitta. He uses different terms, but I'll use different terms. Two types of bodhicitta. One is called aspirational bodhicitta, aspiring, aspirational bodhicitta. Second is called engaging bodhicitta. He uses the word venture. Okay, engaging bodhicitta, aspirational bodhicitta. Now, aspirational bodhicitta is what I already explained. Aspirational bodhicitta is wishing that I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. That's just aspiration. It's like you're aspiring, wishing to go to Megalorganj. Right? That aspiration is important. If you don't have that willingness or aspiration to go, you will never make a plan to go there, right? That aspiration is important. But unless you go, that aspiration itself will not take you to Megalorganj. So the wish to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings is an amazing thought, great thought. But unless you implement and practice in accordance with the motivation, you will be nowhere. So the second is called engaging bodhicitta, where you, after developing that aspirational bodhicitta, then you take the bodhisattva vow, and then you actually engage. Engage means now you practice the 6 perfections. So in summary, this is the content of this book. Cultivate bodhicitta, aspirational bodhicitta, then cultivate engaging bodhicitta, then engage in the 6 practice of the 6 perfections. That's what is taught in this text. So that is a summary of this text, basically. Okay, engaging bodhicitta. The 2 types of bodhicitta are aspirational bodhicitta, engaging bodhicitta. That's not so difficult to understand. Now, sometimes the bodhicitta is also divided into 2, conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Now, in this case, ultimate bodhicitta is not bodhicitta actually. Conventional bodhicitta means nothing but bodhicitta. Okay, so this is similar to bodhicitta. Conventional bodhicitta means bodhicitta, the wish to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. The ultimate bodhicitta is not bodhicitta. It is wisdom realizing emptiness, which we already studied. This also called kind of called bodhicitta because it also helps you achieve enlightenment, of course. This is one of the 2 wings, but this is not bodhicitta. It's a wisdom realizing emptiness. So don't get confused, especially when you receive tantric initiations. This word will come there frequently, like conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Okay. Clear? Okay, some questions.
Can I have a question for the topic from the morning? I was thinking about that attachment to others, and can you please explain how, for example, mother can unconditionally love her child without being attached? Or what is a difference between unconditional love and being attached to someone?
Attachment is of not much help. Okay. Attachment will not help you, it will actually harm you. Because as I said, you get obsessed with something. Okay. But having no attachment does not mean you can't love. Of course, you can love, you can have unconditional love. The difference between these 2 is when you extend unconditional love, you will mentally not get a lot of problem. If you develop attachment, then, when there's a slight problem with that object where you have the attachment, you get intolerable suffering, problem. Oh, my mother is suffering. Oh, my brother is suffering. What should I do? Then you cry and weep, and then you become helpless. You lose your mental stability. What can I do? You worry. You spend sleepless night, that's the thing. That's not needed. You do everything that is possible with loving kindness. But then what you can do, you can do. What you cannot do, you cannot do. That's the reality. You have to accept, you see. That's why somewhere in this text, I think in the chapter on patience, I think he says, if it is something you can change, don't worry, because you can change. If it is something you cannot change, no use worrying. By worrying, you can't change. That's the thing, you know. I mean, it's easier said than done, but that's the only solution. Because most of the time, as I said, we suffer unnecessarily. We suffer unnecessarily because of lack of knowledge, lack of reality. And we don't do what we should be doing, and instead we worry, we develop anxiety, which is of no benefit to you also, to that other person also, right? For example, if that other person is, very sick and weak, and you also become sick and weak, supposed to be helping, but you also, oh, mother, you can't, when you can't eat anything, how can I eat, you also don't eat, then mother will have more anxiety. Then at that time, you should really encourage the mother, I'm here, be calm, can I help you this way, that way, tell some nice stories, say good things, encourage and uplift her mind. That will also help, regain her mental and physical stability. I give you one example, personal example. Again, not because I'm a great practitioner, but all this talking helps a little bit. Recently, I went to see my relatives. I go to see them after 3-4 years. So this time, one of my cousins was very sick. So I went to see, but before I reached there, he passed away. So all the family members, they were in shock, but they know my stand, my stature. So nobody was crying when I reached there. Normally they will cry, you see. Now they thought if we cry, he will scold us. So nobody was crying. Nobody was crying. Then I took it as if nothing. I acted as if nothing has happened there. I didn't say, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't say anything like that. Everybody knows, why should I say this? So I just did my work, I'm reading my book, doing my prayers, and then a little bit smile. Not big smile, they will be offended, little bit smile, and then talking. And then after a few days, everybody started laughing, smiling, They are doing all their prayers and other good things, whatever they are able to do, they are doing. But there was no sign of much sadness, things like that. So it helps, you see, strengthen people, right? A a droning person cannot help other person who is droning. Right? Okay. And then on a larger scale, some of these bodhisattvas say that if you have to cry because somebody died, then you should cry every day. How many people are dying in a second in the world? They're all your mother's enemies. Keep on crying. Right? If that is of some benefit. It's of no benefit. Okay? Yeah.
Oh, when we say that everything that exists depends on something, what does it depend on? It depends on being perceived.
Dependent on the mind, which gives the designation, which gives the name, dependent on its causes and conditions. For example, this one dependent on this iron, dependent on this wire, dependent on this, I don't know what this net or whatever is here, and then dependent on that person who made it, the factory which produced it, dependent on so many things.
So it doesn't, you can't say that it's like objective reality versus subjective experience. This is not what you mean.
This word, objective reality, the scientists have been for a long time saying, let us be objective. Now today they are little bit hesitant. Now they are questioning, can we really be objective? As and when you involve your subjective mind, you are manipulating the object. Have you read this Heisenberg's uncertainty principle? Uncertainty principle. That means there's no certainty, you know. How that object is seen depends. Beauty lies in the eye of the beholder, as we say. Right? The same person, one person will say very nice, another person will say not so nice, another will say mediocre, whatever, you know. Okay.
Hello.
Mm.
So in Buddhist scriptures, we talk about 8 types of freedom, the ease of freedom.
Mm.
And one of the freedom is not to be born in the realms of God.
Mm.
What does that actually mean, sir?
God, I think, is small g, not big G. So
Can
that
you-
means in the 6 realms, we talk about the realm of God, which is one of the higher realms, you know, the happier state. 3 out of the 6 realms, 3 are more lower realms, 3 are higher or happier state. So within that, human beings and demigods and gods. So gods are said to be something like people, very rich people living in 5-star hotels. So something like that. They're all elegant, you know, men, women, everybody is like spotless, beautiful, elegant, very, very good physical body, and wearing beautiful clothes, something like that. So they're really looking, spotless. But when their time for the death comes, they have kind of clairvoyance where they're able to see where they are going to die. And then certain physical signs also come up, you know. They start sweating, body odors also start coming. And then it is said they always wear flower garlands. Flower garlands also start fading. These are the signs of death. So when they experience that signs of death, they experience unsurmountable problem and sufferings. Right? So to make a long story short, they are within the samsara. Right. I give you this example of very rich people staying in 5-star hotels, you know, very rich, and they wear very beautiful clothes, eat good food, and hardly think about death, huh? When it comes, then they're shocked, completely shocked, caught unprepared, something like that. Yeah.
So one more question I have, if you permit.
Mm.
In Tsongkhapa's reading, we talk about where bodhichitta actually leads to wisdom. So bodhichitta is a preparatory for wisdom. So is it like a step that first we need to have bodhichitta, then only we can understand the wisdom of emptiness? It's like preparing the vessel to get to hold the wisdom.
Depends upon who you are. It is said the more intelligent person will develop wisdom, understanding emptiness first, and then bodhicitta.
So it can go either way.
Yeah, go either way.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
We also have one question from online that I will try to put through. Okay, Geshe?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead, SK.
Yeah, Geshe, can you hear me?
Yeah. Online.
Yeah. So I had this question on not self, on emptiness.
Yeah.
So I've been struggling with this for some time, even while attending the retreat on emptiness. So if you're saying there's no self, then the basic question is then what transmigrates to the next life?
No. I didn't say there's no self. I said there's no soul. If you talk about a soul which is permanent, then we don't believe in that. But there is, of course, self.
So if there is nothing permanent, then there are certain karmic imprints where I do negative and positive seeds in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And there is something which carries on to my next rebirth.
That is continuity.
So
That is
is
the
that
stream.
not my, is it not me? Is it not I?
Yeah. Now, for example, when you were like 5 years old, now compare that 5-year-old child with yourself right now.
Right.
They are totally kind of two different person,
Right.
but still you are saying I'm that person in terms of the continuity.
So, but when you're talking
And
about
you will and you will say
Sorry.
you will never say I was never born. You know, I'm 40 years old and I was like that right in the beginning. Nobody will say like that. You will say I was born. So that means you are that same person. Now that doesn't mean that you never changed. The continuity is there. So similarly, I'll give you another example. For example, if there is a stream that originates from the snow mountain and then it goes all the way to the ocean, okay, then we say, okay, this stream originated from there, went to the ocean. It doesn't mean that it is permanent. It undergoes all the changes. Sometimes it, disappears under a rock. Sometimes it becomes muddy. Sometimes it, vanishes in the forest somewhere. Then gradually it reaches the mountain. The ocean. So it is the continuity that goes to the next life. With the mind, basically the mind goes to the next life. With its imprints and habits, yeah.
Okay. No, why I had a doubt is because when we are talking about, when you're meditating on emptiness and you're saying, there are just 5 aggregates, the body and mind.
Yeah.
And behind this, there is no I who is experiencing
No.
body and mind.
So
if there is no I, then what the continuum, what
Yeah,
transfers to the next?
No. What I'm saying, I did not say there's no I. But what I said was there is I merely designated on the body and the mind.
Yeah.
And in fact, this is not just exception to the I. Everything is designated. Apart from the designation, if you try to pinpoint something, you will never find anything.
So we are saying the continuum of this body and mind, which has the imprint, goes on to the next lifetime.
Yes, absolutely. Just like the example that I gave. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
All, yeah.
Sir, to know the ultimate truth, the observer must know itself. So how can the observer turn back and look at itself? The witness consciousness, how can it know itself?
The consciousness has the capacity to know everything. The subjective mind and also the objective reality.
But the subject needs an object. How can a subject know itself?
When the mind itself thinks about its own nature, the luminosity, the cognitivity, it has the capacity to know itself.
I can't help but feel sometimes that only if I dedicate my life to this can I get a good chance of developing bodhichitta, developing genuine love versus business love, as you said.
Yeah.
So out in the lay world, there's so many habit energies that you get pulled into, energies of other people that you get pulled into.
Yeah.
How is it possible to develop this discipline?
It depends upon the seriousness of the practitioner. If you really want to achieve something, you need to have that dedication. In order to become different, you need to do things differently. If you continue with the same society, seminar environment which you have been living, then your practice will also be like that. But having said that, it's not easy. Like, for example, have you read the history of Milarepa? The famous, extremely famous Tibetan practitioner. He used to, you won't believe this, Sometimes we read the story of Mahatma Gandhi and then we say, oh, in the history later on, people may not believe that such a person moved in flesh and bone. But much more than that, this Saint Milarepa, he remained naked most of the time in the cold snow mountain of Tibet. In the beginning, he learned black magic. There's a very interesting story, having problem with his family. Then he wanted to revenge, then learned art, black magic, killed many people. Then in order to repent and regret, he completely dedicated to Dharma practice, moved into the mountain, ran away from human beings, society. And then we say he achieved enlightenment in one lifetime. So you need, it's almost impossible for us to do such a practice. There's a story of one person who was living at the time of Milarepa. He was very inspired by by Milarepa. He said, I should also be like that. So immediately threw away all his belongings. After 2-3 days, he said, this Milarepa, not only he is a beggar, he made me a beggar. So you just by throwing things away, you can't become a dedicated practitioner. But having said that, good advice that His Holiness the Dalai Lama gave is 50-50. 50% for this life, 50% for the next life, or 50% for ordinary worldly activities, 50% for Dharma practices. That we can, I think, hopefully do. Right? So it's all dependent upon how serious you are, how much relevance you see in this spiritual practice. If you see relevance important, then you need to do it. And by living and practicing and doing it, you will become a very good example in the society. Especially younger generation need that example, you see. Not necessarily to become great saint scholar, but at least a good sane human being, There's so much insanity coming up, you see. So we can help, become an example for those younger generation. It's very, very important. Because younger generation more or less now are a bunch of lost people, honestly speaking. All they can do is run around, fiddle with the mobile phone and run after the gadgets. Now so many other things are now, coming. Artificial intelligence, metaverse, many other distractions will come. They'll be completely lost into that. And there are people who I know that they are so much obsessed with this, addicted to these things. They have basically lost their, the human feeling. They become almost like a, I recently heard about 2 young Tibetan kids. There will be many like that, 2 young Tibetan kids. The parents went to America and then they are left with their, aunts or something like that. And then the easiest way to get these young people distracted is give mobile phone to each. So these 2 little kids keep on looking at mobile phone. One of them become very good in speaking Korean language, just picked up from the mobile phone. Another person, actually both of them get so addicted. So recently they saw this dangerous addiction, and so they put them in a proper school where they can play with other kids. So their first few, I don't know, weeks or days, they found these 2 kids. Even when their mobile phone is there, not there, they are looking like, sitting there like this. Brain is so much destroyed. It took a long time to make them play with other kids, So the younger generation need a lot of guidance. They can have fun, they can play, but they need very good guidance. Okay. Okay, we stop here. Have a good night, good sleep. Good night, sleep tight, as we say. And see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.